Hello, it sounds like it's time to get this thing started. Hopefully everyone can see my screen and they can hear me. Maybe someone can type in a message to say that they can hear me, and we can know and move forward. Today's webinar is going to be on determining student eligibility for meal benefits. Hope school can hear me. Thank you. Okay, so this will be recorded for later use in case someone wants to review any part of it. We'll be able to go back and look at it again. If you have questions about this webinar, actually if you have questions about the webinar about approving student meal eligibility, you can call any of the reviewers in the office and they can answer your questions. This is my contact information, my email, my phone number, but any of the reviewers can answer questions. If you call the main line, they will forward that question to one of the reviewers. Materials to use. There is a USDA eligibility manual for school meals. It was updated in June of 2017, and that document has a link on our website. Current income guidelines. You will need that to conduct application approvals. There's also a quick reference guide. There's also a much shorter YouTube video that we have done that can help you with this process as well. Determining eligibility. Now remember, when you're approving an application, you are approving the application based on face value. You're not questioning stuff unless the application is incomplete. Then you can contact the family to ask further questions. Free and reduced meal applications, you're going to look for either income or categorical eligibility. That means either a SNAP or a TANF number, foster child. You might have a list from the migrant liaison, the homeless liaison, and a Head Start list. And then the most important thing is the direct certification list. If you have an application from a family that's on the direct certification list, the direct certification list overrides the application. Once eligibility is determined, the eligibility is good for the year, so the family will stay at that status. We'll talk more about that a little bit more as we go through. Documentation. In order to claim federal reimbursement for free or reduced price meals, you must have proper documentation for student eligibility. That means you must have on the application the student's name.
Hi everybody, if you can click on the orange arrow to the side of your dialog box, it'll minimize it so you'll be able to see the presentation entirely. And then you can click it again to open it back up if you need to ask a question. And we'll be answering questions at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Alyssa. So you need to have some form of documentation with the student's name. You have to have the student's name on the application. You have to have some reference guide if it's direct certification. We need to see the student's name to prove the eligibility for the school year. Applications must be available to all households. Send them home. You can post them on your website. Many schools are beginning to do online applications. Only one application per household needs to be submitted. Families cannot be required to complete and submit an application. If a family knows they will not qualify, they are not required to submit the application. You'll be sending a letter to the household with the application beginning at the school year. that letter needs to include what school nutrition programs are available. For the reduced and paid eligible students, what's going to be the price of their meal? You must also include the fact that the family can reapply or even apply at any time in the school year. Also make sure with this information is the current non-discrimination statement. Free and reduced price applications, letters to household, current year materials. We have on our website the current free and reduced application. On the USDA webpage, which is a link to from our webpage, the application is available in other languages, and I believe we've determined it's about 49 other languages that it's available in. So hopefully that meets everyone's demand for different translations of the application. Carryover eligibility. Last year's eligible student status remains in effect for the first 30 school days, operating days, or until the new application is received, whichever comes first. New eligibility supersedes carryover eligibility. If a family was approved for free meals last year, they give you an application this year, and that application is denied, that denial becomes effective for the rest of this school year. You're not going to wait for the 30 carryover operating days. That eligibility would become effective in 10 days, which is noted in the letter that you would send out to the family. Processing free and reduced price meal applications. Applications should be processed and families notified immediately, but no later than 10 calendar days after being received. Note, this is calendar days, not operating days. Realizing many schools at the beginning of the school year are getting a lot of applications. You have 10 days. Eligibility becomes effective when the application is received. So date stamp them, initial upon receipt. That way you know when you received that application. There are a few different information that's needed. You need to have students on the application who will be approved either categorically, which we'll talk about it more in a minute, food stamp or TANF number, SNAP number, or it's going to be approved based on income. Remember that all applications are approved based on face value. A categorically approved application will have a SNAP number or a TANF number. That is still an approved application. If the child is listed on the direct certification list, that's their approval mechanism, not the application. You can take that application, put it in a folder, and store it away for the rest of the year. Other mechanisms for source categorical is Head Start, migrant, homeless, foster children. These four lists are required a list from the liaison, the Head Start liaison, the migrant liaison, and that's a list directly to you from them, not through their secretary. You need it from them. And a list of foster children, typically that's going to be based on an F checked on the application, that box checked. Foster children. They are the member of the household where they reside, eligible for free meals regardless of the income on that application. A foster child's free meal benefit does not extend to other members of the family. However, they are counted with the other members in the household to determine their approval based on the household information. It's possible to have one foster child in a family with 3 kids. The foster child is free. The other 2 potentially could be reduced, could be denied based on the information on the application. Free and reduced price applications with categorical eligibility. The child's name, first name, last name must be on the top of in each block of the form for all children that the benefit will apply to. Foster children, you'll see to the right you have that foster child block. Check that if that individual, that block will be checked if that child is a foster child. Another mechanism is the food stamp number. The student name, 8-digit number with one letter in the appropriate boxes, or that of a foster child. We have the 8 lines on that application for a reason. That's the size of the number that's going to fit. If they put 16 digits on there, that means it's their EBT number, and it does not qualify. If they fill it in, they put the numbers, and they write next to it Maine Care number. That does not qualify. A statement from the parent to you, we receive food stamps, does not qualify. There must be either a food stamp categorical number or them listed on the direct certification list. If it is a categorical application that has a valid food stamp number on it, you are not required to check the income. The income on that application does not determine the eligibility. A valid food stamp number, SNAP number, overrides the income. The one exception for an application with a foster child, although the foster child is automatically free, and the additional children in the household need to meet the eligibility status. The application must be signed. All applications, adult household must sign their name in this section and write the last 4 digits of their social security number, or mark the box that says they don't have a social security number. With the exception, this number is not needed for a categorical eligibility application. If you're going to be approving the application based on income, you'll want the child's name, we will want the number of individuals living in the household. Below that, they will be writing the family members that are in the household. The total number of children and adults in the household must match the number of names on the application. If there's one name up above and mom and dad's name below it, the total is 3, and that's what that number needs to be. And then next to that, you would put income. It lists on the application monthly income. There are times that the family will list other income if they note that it's other income, weekly,
I didn't put the
bi-weekly, monthly.
I was done in order.
Yeah. I think on Nancy, I have one that doesn't fall.
Let's convert to annual income if you have different income levels. If you report to annually, you do not reduce that to monthly.
Do you know
the numbers that are used for non-monthly income are shown at the top. Weekly is multiplied by 52. Every 2 weeks is multiplied by 26. Twice a month is multiplied by 24. Add those up. Monthly, of course, is multiplied by 12. Add those up, and that's the figure that will be used on the income guidelines, the annual income. If there are cents included on the income amount, do not round up or down. Leave the annual income where it's at. Do not round up. Do not round down.
Okay, so we don't know though.
No conversion is required when one source of income is listed or all income sources are the same frequency. So if everyone is listed as weekly income, then just list weekly. And then use the information on the income guidelines. On our webpage, you'll see income guidelines shown monthly and yearly. There's a link that will show you, bring up a PDF document that will show you for free and paid, monthly, weekly, yearly, bi-monthly. It lists all the different categories that might be used on the application. Here's an example of the income guidelines posted on our website. And this table is directly on the screen. You'll show to the left the number of family members in the household. You'll see annual, monthly, and weekly income for free and reduced. You'll notice at the bottom that if you have a family larger than 8, for each additional person over that 8, you're going to add that figure shown below, whether it's annual, weekly, or monthly. Add that figure. You will use that to determine what their income level is at. This is where you'll find the income guidelines. There's a link that, as it says here, will show annual, monthly, twice a month, every 2 weeks, and weekly. Good document to have. It can make your life easier if you have other levels of income. Even if you have one level of income and it says twice a month, use the income guidelines. Do not multiply it by 2 and compare that to the monthly. You must use the every 2-week monthly guideline. With all applications, with all income applications, the adult must sign it, and they must include the last 4 digits of their Social Security number, or check the block that says, I do not have a Social Security number. If they leave that blank, and if they do not check the box, that means that it is an incomplete application, and you will have to send that back to get further information on that. It's an incomplete application, and you cannot approve it as it is. On the back of the application, there's a question. If the family, other benefits, do you want information on the Maine Care Health and Coverage Information Program for their children? If they check that block, if they sign that line, there's information, and all you have to supply them is a phone number that they can call to get more information about that. This information is on all of the applications. However, it's optional for the households to fill it out. If they leave it blank, it does not matter. They are not required to fill out this question about ethnic background, racial identities. This is the current Privacy Act statement and must be included on all the applications. And this statement also must be included on the letter that you send home to the family, notifying them of their eligible benefit status, whether that is free, reduced, or denied. This statement must be included on the letter sent home to the family, must be included with the application. It's important to record the income information, because if you go back, how did you come to that determination? Show us how you did the math. If you have to do math to determine the income, if you have two different types, levels of income, if you have twice a month, if you have every 2 weeks, and you have monthly, show us the math. Don't just write the number down and say this is their income level. We want to see something showing us the numbers that you used. If you're approving these manually, the approving official must sign the application and date the application. The date will tell us when the benefit was available for them. Even if it's a denied application, sign it and date it. If the family sends you an application and on that they write, we do not qualify, you're not going to approve that. There's self-denial. However, you must keep that application in file for 3 years plus the current. Transfer students. If a student moves halfway through the year and you receive a copy of their application from the sending school, you need to reapprove it for yourself because it's now your benefit to that family. You need to make sure that it's been approved correctly. Reapprove it for yourself, sign it, and date it. If you disagree with the approval from the prior school, do not notify the prior school. It is just your determination for your school district. Determining eligibility for homeless migrant Head Start, a student would have to be identified by the district homeless liaison, migrant coordinator, Head Start coordinator. Applications for these students are not required. However, as I stated previously, you have to be noticed by the liaison or the coordinator. You need to get the information directly from them. If it's in an email, it needs to be direct from them. Someone in between can add information to it. You need to be getting the information firsthand. Notification of eligibility. This is on the back of the form. Many schools will use this where you can check the eligibility of the family. You can also, you can see on the top of this, the application is missing information. You can use this to send it back to the family to get the missing information. And it has information on here as well about if they want to appeal it, there's a mechanism for that to happen. All must receive notification of the eligibility or denial. If you receive an application and the family is truly applying for the benefit, they must receive a response. You must keep a copy of that response so that that document must be maintained. You can use a one-call system that calls the family to say your children qualify for free meal benefits. Keep a list of the phone numbers, keep a copy of the message that was sent out. That phone call should not have the family's name. If something goes wrong, someone else gets that information, that would be overt identification and notifying families of someone else's benefit. Eligibility is good for the entire school year and the first 30 operating days of the next school year. What makes a complete application? Of course, the child's name, the adult's signature, the last 4 digits of the social or check no social security. And that last item is not needed on a SNAP or TANF application. That needs the children's name, the food stamp TANF number, and the adult's signature. An income application needs the child's name, the household names, the members of the household and the signature, the household size must match, income for whoever in that family has income, the adult's signature, and they must include on the income application the last 4 digits of the social or check the no Social Security number block. While you are approving the applications, you can make your life easier and start looking at the verification process and start taking steps to make that simpler as you go. The first thing, you can do what's called verification for cause. Verification for cause is in addition to the required verification. I want to just talk about this very briefly. In 4 weeks, we will have a verification webinar, plus in about 3 weeks, we will have review and verification training in our building. Information on both of those is on our website and will be coming out with the Thursday update. While you're approving the applications, the required mechanism is what's called error prone. Those are income applications that are within $100 of the income guidelines for free and reduced meals. If it is a denied application, it does not qualify for verification. It's a denied application. It's not part of this process. Directly certified students are not required to be verified. SNAP and TANF numbers categorical applications can be part of the verification process and are used in the determining of the sample size. Migrant, homeless, those children are not eligible to participate in the verification process. You did not receive information from the family. You received information from your coordinator or your liaison. Once again, a denied application is not part of the verification process. September 14th is the verification training here in Augusta. September 26th will be a webinar on verification. So those are the items I just mentioned. The verification training here in Augusta will be beginning at 1 p.m. in the Cross Office Building. September 26th at 1:30 will be the webinar on the verification process. Direct certification. This is a list accessed in the NEO system. The list must be checked at least 3 times each school year. The beginning of the school year, either October, November timeframe, January, March timeframe. It's a good idea at the beginning of the school year to check it often. Names might be added to it. The more children you get off the direct cert list, the better benefit that is for your school. When you access the direct cert list, keep a copy of it. That copy can be in electronic format that you've downloaded into Excel from NEO. It can be a printed off copy, but you must maintain a copy of the actual document, not just an upload into your accountability system. We will ask to see copies of your direct certification list if you're up for review. What is direct cert? It's a federally mandated process matching those eligible for assistance programs with the state agency and the local education authority to receive free school meals. Any child listed on the direct cert list is automatically free. That benefit is extended to all children living in that household. Those children receiving benefits from the direct cert list must be existing in the same household. Children found on the direct certification list must still be notified of that benefit in writing or with the phone call mechanism mentioned earlier. Direct certification takes precedence over an application. It's eligible for free meals for the entire school year. If a family, for whatever reason, decides they do not want the benefit, they need to give you that denial of benefit in writing. If I get a letter that says my children qualify for free meals based on the direct certification list, and I decide I don't want them to get that benefit, ask that family for that in writing. They can send it to you in email, they can send you a letter, but for the safety for you in getting that benefit, ask for that in writing. If a household fails to apply and the child is known to be eligible, local officials may complete an application on their behalf. This is called an administrative approval. This has very, very limited use. This is not done just because the family doesn't apply. Application needs to be filled out based on the best information known. The application is still approved by the approving official. The principal of a school is not going to give you a list and say, I want these children to get free meal benefits. An application must be filled out. Information must be included. It cannot be just because mom and dad didn't fill it out. It's not based on the assistant principal, the principal, the student counselor. They cannot make that determination. You are still included in that. Any administrative approved applications are not part of verification. The family did not give you an application. There's nothing for them to verify. However, the approval letter must be sent out to the family that they are getting that benefit. Changes in benefits. Applications can be submitted throughout the school year. Changes must take place within 3 days for an increase of benefits, in 10 days for a decrease in benefits. If a family is approved for reduced or paid meals, they bring you an application, they were laid off, they now qualify for free meals, that benefit must be updated on the student accountability list within 3 calendar days, sorry. If they're decreasing the benefit, that change is within 10 calendar days. If a family comes in and tell you that they want to fill out a new application for their children, their income level has changed, they're making more money, you are allowed to tell the family that this is not required. You can tell that family this benefit is good for the entire school year. Next year, they would not fill out an application or fill out a different one. If the family insists that you take the application, you have to process it and make the determination based on the new application. If you tell them they don't have to do this and they turn around and they walk away, you're all set. The child will retain that benefit for the rest of the school year. Benefit issuance list or master list. This is a list of students eligible for free and reduced meals. It must be updated or revised as changes occur. It has to include the date of any changes. If a child moved out, put that date on your master list. If a child's eligibility changed, put that change and the date on that master list. The master list is supporting documentation for the monthly claim form. The master list is confidential. You can use codes on the master list. You can use numbers on the master list. You cannot include the letters F, R, or P. The list must include the student's first and last name. The student benefit. What is their status? Free, reduced, or paid? The date the status was determined. That will be for the free and reduced. If it's a paid status, you don't have eligibility. However, if it was a change based on the verification process, then that date would be included. What's the method of determination? Are they getting free meals because they're directly certified? Are they categorically eligible? Or is it based on income on the application? The list needs to include the school name and, as stated previously, any changes as they occur. If your school is up for review, we will ask you to send us this master list before we arrive. That way, some of the work that we have to do can be done before we walk through the door. Point of service. If you're using a master list as point of service, it does not have to be as extensive as the previous list. It can list the student's first and last name and a code for the current benefits. For instance, a pound sign, an and mark, and the @ symbol can be the code 123 XYZ ABC. Do not include F, R, and P. It also needs to list the school name that it's being used at and the date period that it covers. This is either electronic or a manual paper list. If it's electronic, make sure whatever code that a student looking at that cannot determine a student's eligibility. Common application errors, incorrect SNAP or TANF number. It does not fit in the 8 lines. They write Maine Care next to it. Math errors. Annual income, if income reported in various stages. As I stated previously, do not convert that back to monthly income. Whatever income level you use, monthly, yearly, or anything in between, if that's all that's listed on the application, is what you use. Maybe the data was entered incorrectly on an electronic system. I've looked at some of those where the information on income on the far right of the application was not picked up. Make sure you're getting all of the numbers and you're entering them correctly. If you have applications that are approved and you're using the paper application, every application must be signed and dated by the approving official. If you're entering data into an electronic system, and that is the approval mechanism, then you would print off and sign and date and a copy from the electronic system and sign and date that master list. How often does that master list have to be printed? In the first month or so of the school year, probably once a week, because a lot of changes are happening. After that, maybe once a month, depending on how often changes occur. It does not have to be printed for every change, but every so often as more changes occur. We find schools not checking the master list, the direct certification list, at least 3 times during the school year. If you're doing a manual search for a student, have the information for David Hartley, and he was free last year based on the direct certification list, but he doesn't come up on your direct cert list this year. So you do an individual search for me. If I show up, you have to print that off and maintain that screen print to show that that's why I'm getting that benefit. You can increase your direct certification numbers by doing those individual searches. Many schools, for all categorical applications, will do the search. If they get them on the search, that application is put in a different file. That application is not counted for the verification process, which we'll talk about later. Letters must be sent home to directly certified households, notifying them of the benefits. We mentioned that previously. Save all direct cert lists, either an electronic copy or a paper copy. As stated previously, not the upload into your accountability or MEDMS system. Make sure the master list in the office matches the checklist used when the meals are being accounted for. If a change was made on the application and on your master list, was that information forwarded to the accountability list so that that student is getting the correct benefit that they should be? Remember, all information about a student's eligibility is confidential. Very few people should have access to that information. You may share aggregate data. If someone wants to know how many students in the classroom receive free or reduced price meal benefits, that information can be disclosed. If they want to know that Tommy receives free meal benefits, that information cannot be shared. The only way a student's eligibility mechanism benefit can be shared is with parental permission. There are certain circumstances that allow that information to be disclosed. There's a list of those benefits in the eligibility manual. If a school district wants to have eligibility for certain students so that they get reduced benefit on their laptop insurance, if they get additional benefit for homework assistance, that's information that has to be released by the family. That release needs to include who's getting the benefit of that information, not the guidance counselor. Some schools have many guidance counselors. We need to have that person's name. If you have multiple reasons, each one of them on the letter sent home must be a separate request for that information. You cannot just say, can I release the information for every reason the school wants? There has to be individual reasons. Check the eligibility manual if you're not sure. Further, if you're not sure, contact this office. Be careful with the benefit, the confidential data of this. If this data is shared incorrectly, you can end up like this gentleman. You can end up behind bars. You can also end up with a financial fine. If a family files a claim that their confidentiality was shared, an investigation will be made and consequences can be applied, either jail time and or financial. Make sure all of the information that you send includes the federal non-discrimination statement. There are certain circumstances that you can use the abbreviated non-discrimination statements. Thank you. Sarah's in here helping me along, and that's a good thing. In order to use the short statement, you have to get permission from this office. So you would have to send in an email and request that ability to use the short non-discrimination statement. This is the last slide in this presentation. We shall wait for just a minute for anyone that might want to add a question. If you think of the question later, you are always allowed to, let's see, David, say that this master list cannot have FR, correct. The master list, the question is, did I say that the master list cannot have FRP on it? It's best if it not have it. If someone else sees that list it's best to have other information so that they cannot make that determination. Having just a little bit of problem with our computer. Let's see. If a child listed on the direct cert list as foster, does that include all children in the household are free too? Last slide said children on the DC extends. If a child, for whatever reason, is considered foster, that benefit is just for that child. If one child in the household is listed on the direct cert list and none of them are foster, then that benefit would be extended to all children in the family. But one foster child's benefit does not qualify any other children in the house for that benefit. I think that's all. We just had a couple of questions. I believe I've answered them all. If I said anything that's confusing, if you think of a question later on, please, please, please do not hesitate to contact this office to get clarification. This webinar has been recorded, and the address of that will be added to a Thursday update when we have that information available. It should be available for this week's Thursday update. In all likelihood, it will be on the resources page, but that information will be included on the most recent Thursday update, which should be in 2 days. Miss Sarah, did I miss anything? Are we all set? Looks like we're all set. I don't see any more questions. So without any more questions, we will end this webinar. We thank you for joining us. We thank you for joining us through this. Have a good day. Thank you.